Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Career Corner podcast where we answer your cozy career cues. And on today's episode, we are so excited to be joined by Ashan Anthony's Chandrasena. Ashan, thank you so much for being here today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, I know you do a lot around campus. You're very busy. So, to start us off, would you like to just sort of introduce yourself and tell us a little about some of the multiple things that you do around here?
Yeah, of course. I love to. So my name, as you mentioned, is Ashan Anthony Chandrasena. I'm a senior here at Ithaca College. I'm majoring in political science, with minors in writing, education, and women, gender, and sexuality studies. Some of the involvements I'm a part of is I'm a member of the Ithaca men's varsity rowing team. I work at Career Services as a peer career advisor. I worked with the Pathways program as a peer ambassador. Recently, I started working with the Academic Support Center as a peer leader coordinator. Other than that, I do a bunch of other things around campus. I'm president of the South Asian Student Alliance that just got reinstated last semester. I'm involved with a bunch of clubs. I'm a Wise Up brand ambassador, so kind of all over campus. So if you see me around, don't feel shy to say hi.
Yeah, a super eclectic mix of stuff. I mean, you are like all over the board, which is super awesome. I'm super excited to hear more about it. Specifically with the Pathways program, could you tell me a little bit more about sort of what it's like to be an ambassador and how you came into that role?
Yeah. So I was actually a pathway student. When I joined Ithaca, it was actually called the Exploratory Program. And it was actually an all school encompassing program. It gave students the opportunity to come in without declaring a major. You could come in as part of the humanities and sciences school, but you didn't have a declared major. You just went as exploratory and you could spend basically your first 2 years until sophomore year or the equivalent of 60 credits taking all of these different classes. Before it became common for all first years to have their schedules made for them that first semester, the exploratory program was actually one of the few programs that had that happen. They would send us a questionnaire out and we would fill it out based on our interests, and then they would make a schedule for us as incoming first years that tried to encompass as many of our interests as possible. I became a Pathways ambassador or an exploratory ambassador the end of my freshman year. And so I officially had the role during the first semester of my sophomore year. The way it typically works is the directors of the Pathway program. It used to be Maria Di Francesco. Right now it's Katie Marks and Jessica and Philip. So Maria, who was in charge at the time when I was a first year, kind of sent an email out to all Pathway students and kind of said that they were looking for students who were in the Pathways program and had roughly completed a year to join the Pathways team on like a volunteer basis, and act as ambassadors for the program. So to help incoming first year students navigate what Pathways is like, to help current pathway students make sure they could manage their different classes, how to explore without feeling like they weren't going to graduate on time or feel like they weren't exploring enough, or maybe they weren't going in the right direction, and how to navigate that. The program also has it used to have a 1 credit class that all pathway students have to take, which has now become an Ithaca seminar that all pathway students take, which kind of helps them navigate and explore. So we would also come into those classes and kind of talk about our experience and what it was like when we did it. And so that's kind of how I came into the Pathways ambassador role.
Awesome. That makes total sense. And sort of speaking about like you talking about what your experience within the program was like, could you speak a little bit about sort of how you ended up settling on the major that you're on now and the minors that you're on now, and sort of how having the chance to explore sort of helped?
Yeah, of course. So speaking of the schedule that they made for us, one of the things I mentioned was being interested in politics because I had done a lot of school, but also feminist theory and things like that. Kind of being an international student as well, kind of want to see the backbones of like what built up all the things that we interact with. And one of the classes that that questionnaire got me put in was gender and political theory. And it was a really interesting class. It was the first time I'd actively studied political theory. As I said, I did a lot of MUN, so it was a lot of just studying foreign countries like stances and defending as if I was a delegate or being a journalist. And it was a lot less theory and understanding why things were the way they were. And that was the first time that I kind of found words to experience a lot of the systems I had experienced or been a part of, understanding where different mindsets came from and having the language to start talking about it. So that was a really interesting class for me. And I kind of kept following that. I also had the luck that pathway students get assigned an advisor just at random. It's professors in Ithaca College that have signed up with the Pathways program saying that they are willing to take Pathways students under their wing who haven't declared a major yet. And I actually got lucky enough that the professor I got assigned, he wound up teaching my Exploring the Options course. So that was the class that all Pathways students had to take. But he was also a politics professor. So when he saw that I was in governing gender and how much I was liking that class, he kind of helped me see what it would look like to be a political science major and kind of tie all my different interests in. And I kept taking politics classes. I think I didn't officially declare my politics major till the end of my sophomore year or going into my second semester of sophomore year, but I had technically been on the track for it. Like I kind of made sure to take classes that were in the major using degree works and seeing what I could do. And I had the luck of all of them being fields that I was very interested in. In terms of the three minors I wound up declaring, I took my Ithaca seminar freshman year was the science of fiction with Jack Wang. And we kind of looked at both the neuroscience behind storytelling and why storytelling intrigues people so much, and also story structure and what makes it interesting and why we tell stories. And I had always liked writing before coming to college. I just knew I didn't want to specifically major in it, but I still wanted to pursue those talents. And seeing that class, taking that class, and as part of one of my assignments for exploring the options, I sat down with Jack Wang and kind of talked it through of what a writing major or minor would look like. And after talking with him, I kind of settled in on that as well. For my women and gender studies minor, a lot of the classes I wound up taking in politics overlapped with that significantly. The governing gender class I took my first year here was taught by Professor Sumro Atuk. She's an assistant professor in the politics department, but she's also a lot of her courses have women and gender studies elements in them because that's a lot of her focus and what she does for research. So I wound up taking a lot of classes with her. And so that kind of automatically set itself up as well. It was something I was very interested in. And so I decided to then officially declare a minor in that as well. My last one was education. I didn't know education wasn't a major at the point that I was looking at it. It was only a minor. And I took social and cultural foundations of education with Professor Copenhaver Johnson. And again, that class had a lot of the similar themes in a lot of the women and gender studies and politics and looking at the politics and identity behind education. And that intrigued me as well. So I kind of was like, okay, I want to do this. Even though I didn't know my major, I always knew further down the line I wanted to teach at like a collegiate level or at least high school or collegiate level. And so I was like, okay, I want to know the science behind teaching and things like that. And I've always said, even with a politics major, a big question I get is, do I want to be a politician? I don't want to be a politician. And so when people would ask me, it's like, I want to be involved in policy and discussion and debate. And I think a big part of that was understanding the theory and the inner workings and what's led up to it. So I kind of declared all three minors with initial interest, but then also realizing how they wove together with my politics major. And so by the end of my sophomore year, second semester, I declared all of them.
That's so cool. I love that you mentioned that coming into college, you sort of had an idea of like, okay, I basically know sort of the field or the industry that I'd like to go into after this, but I maybe don't know exactly what I should major in to get me there. One thing that we talk about a lot on this show is the idea that, life isn't linear, your career path isn't linear, and your college life definitely isn't linear. And sometimes all it takes is one conversation or one class to sort of completely shift your perspective on, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do with my life. You've spoken to this a little bit, but has there been any moments within sort of your time within the Pathways program that really shifted, you feel like, your outlook on academic success or career success?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I was applying to college, the mindset that I came in with, and this was mainly because of my parents, was first of all, it was a bad thing to be like undeclared, and not know what you wanted to do. And I think when I was applying to colleges, it was COVID. I didn't know if I was going to take the SAT because I was an international student, so I had to figure that out. I was looking at finances, but I was also like, I don't want to put myself into a box of I want to do this when I don't really know what I wanted to do. And so I kind of like looked all over, like that was a search criteria of being like, what is what colleges have programs that I can go in? I will graduate in 4 years, but what I'm doing, and it's not going to affect my chances going in, nor is it going to affect my chances when I like graduate. And Ithaca came up as one of the top schools for that. And when I came here again, I was still in the mindset of I need to do as well as I can. Why do I need to try all these different classes? Like even with exploring, it was hard. My first semester here was very hard for me to wrap around the fact that I had classmates or friends that I was making that had these majors and like these set goals and that degrees were progressing. And I was I didn't realize it at the time, but I was making progress. I was making all my degree works or requirements, like my ICC and all that stuff. But it was hard to see that at the point. And it took me, I think, doing exploring the options. We had a lot of good readings in that class and discussions with different people of what it looked like to keep learning and what it looked like to look beyond the grade or the job you are going to have after college. I came into college also being like, I need a job that will give me a lot of money when I graduate. I don't want to be doing paycheck to paycheck and things like that. And I think that was a lot of why I was so afraid of not going through the typical avenues that my family wanted me to go through and not declaring something like law or medicine or engineering. And I think that class, along with my advisors and my professors being willing to sit down and discuss things with me and look over my interests. And I think I really like the fact that there are professors that actively reach out to the Pathways program and ask to be academic advisors for the incoming students, because those are professors that actively want to help the students figure out what they wanted to do. Like I had, I want to say weekly, I think like bi-weekly meetings with my academic advisor and kind of sitting down and him being like, what do you like about your classes? What do you not like about your classes? What intrigues you? What doesn't intrigue you? What in this major looks pretty cool? What doesn't? Like things like that. Another point was the majors and minors fair, which is a big event that the Pathways program and academic success and career services actually all do together, where every major and minor, all the departments are there in one room and you get to walk around and talk to them. So I think it was also really fun to talk to the professors and students who were majoring in that or minoring in that, and it's something now I get to do. So that was a big moment of like there's all these options and look at all these people that are so passionate about it and have careers in it and love what they're doing. I need to find that thing for me and look beyond all these like benchmarkers that I'm saying it's okay what I'm doing. Look at all these people. I think it was also nice to meet other pals who would talk about like where they were and how they felt, and me going, oh, I'm not the only person who's so scared and so terrified. And it was really funny because actually, all the people I live with now who are all pathway students at one point. I have three roommates, two are juniors, two are seniors like me, and one is a junior, and all of us were pathways at one point. And I think it's really cool how, despite that, we all gotten to a point where we're able to do that. And I think that's also an important part that I think the ICSM seminars now do and the PALs do as well, of helping students find that community. Because it can be hard being an undeclared major or pathway student because you don't have a set group of people you're having to take classes with or you're gonna bump into. You're kind of bouncing all around. And I think it's really nice to then have events outside of meeting and things like that. And I think when I started finding those people and seeing how they were doing it as well and exploring the options, I always like pathway students will sometimes tell me, do I have to take that class? can I do a different ICSM? And I say, no, you have to take that ICSM because it has all these activities that you will do that'll help you, like a 4-year plan or a yummy buffet where you look at all the majors and look at what their requirements are, or talking to professors. So I wouldn't say there was like a singular moment that I realized academically I was okay, but I definitely think there were major events that the Pathways program had and continues to have that kept reaffirming me whenever I was like, oh, am I not doing enough or am I falling behind? Which I think they do a really good job of.
Absolutely. You touched on so many great things. I mean, I think so many people come into college with sort of that pressure, either from their family or from themselves, of, maybe what I want to do isn't going to make enough money. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I have no idea what I want to do, and that can be a scary thought. And maybe sometimes, you enter with one idea in mind, and then things can change. College changes people, and suddenly you start feeling like, oh, maybe I don't really know what I want to do as much anymore. I know this is sort of your job as an ambassador. But do you have any advice for students who maybe are feeling a little bit lost, or are feeling sort of self-conscious, like you might have been saying, sort of feeling floating around and not really bound to a major?
Yeah, I would say, and I think this is, I think people feel like it's so obvious, but we forget it all the time, is kind of try everything. And I don't just mean that from an academic standing either. I mean, when you come, as you said, when the people we come into college as and the people we graduate as are completely different people. Like we have the same name and things like that, but like our experiences are completely different. And again, I don't think I would have had the experiences I had if I hadn't tried all the different things I tried. If I hadn't walked onto the rowing team my freshman year, even though I had not been an athlete my entire life prior, I met some of the people that I room with now and who are part of the program as well and going through it, or trying out in different classes and jumping around and talking to other people. I took Spanish my freshman year, in my first semester. I had never taken Spanish before. I had no experience with it before, but it was still a lot of fun because I got to meet other people that were also exploring or trying different things. It's how I got involved briefly with the Ithacan. It's how I got a chance to talk to people at Career Services. Now I work there. And I think trying all these different things, but also at the same time seeing that even the smallest thing has its value. It has benefits in trying and doing these different things, like go to office hours, go to this random event that's happening on campus that someone in your class mentioned, even though you don't really know that person that well. Try out for something that you never thought that you wanted to do. You might meet something new. Take a class that you feel has an interest, but you don't really know how well you like it. For example, I thought I really wanted to do anthropology, because I was really into Indiana Jones and Jurassic World when I was younger. I thought I wanted to do like anthropology, paleontology. I took an anthropology class and I was like, that is not me whatsoever. I cannot and do not want to do that. But at the same time, I did summer scholars over the summer and did research work for the first time. And then I realized I'm like, I want to do research. I want to do political theory, feminist theory research. And now I'm applying for grad schools. And again, like I'm a senior now. So the exploring is still happening, even though I've declared a major and tried all these things. And I think still being a part of the Pathways program, even after you've declared a major. I think a lot of we see a lot of students kind of going, "Oh, I'm no longer a pathways student, non-exploratory student." I'm like, that's not true. You came in as someone who is willing to explore and try new things, and you're still someone who's willing to explore and try new things. And I think just because you declare a major doesn't, or you haven't declared a major, doesn't mean there's no value in any of that. And that's something we say. I tell students, regardless of whether their pathways or not, try everything, do everything. Take that class that you thought you'd be really bad at. You might find out you're really good at it, or an aspect of it that you're really good at. So my advice to every student is to try everything, even briefly. It does not need to be something you do your entire year in college. But it could be a fun thing that makes you find people and community and learn something new about yourself. That can definitely help.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just sink your teeth into everything. I mean, that's what college is all about. It's all about new experiences, new knowledge, and, really finding out who you maybe want to be at some point for a career or just as a human being. So I think that's all really fantastic advice. Well, thank you so much, Ashan, for joining us today. I think we got to talk about some really excellent stuff. We got to cover some really cool ground today. And thank you all for listening. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode. And we hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you'll tune in again. Thanks.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow Career Corner on Instagram and Spotify to stay up to date with future releases. If you're interested in posing some more cozy career cues, or in checking out the Career Closet, Headshot Booth, and all the other cool resources available, feel free to stop by drop-in hours at the Center for Career Exploration and Development in Muller Faculty Center 101 from 11 to 2, Monday through Friday. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Career Corner Podcast.